There is a kind of ignorance that screams, and there is a kind that whispers scripture. There is a kind of disbelief that stands outside the mosque, and there is a kind that sits inside the verses. Surah Al Baqarah, verses 78 and 79. Do not only confront atheists, they do not only argue with deniers, they also turn towards something far more subtle, far more dangerous. They speak to the moment when religion remains, but God slowly disappears. If you listen to these verses with honesty, you may feel a tightening in the chest, a warmth behind the eyes, a strange stillness in the breath. Because these verses are not only history, they are also diagnosis. Verse 78. And among them are unlettered ones, who do not know the book except wishful thinking, and they do nothing but speculate. And among them, the verse does not say all of them. The Qur'an is precise, merciful even in critique. This is a reminder. Spiritual deviation is never universal. Truth always has its witnesses, even in times of confusion. Sufis pause here and say, be careful before condemning a group, a sect, or a generation. Allah never paints with a single brush. Are unlettered ones. This is not merely about illiteracy of language. This is about illiteracy of the heart. One may read thousands of verses, yet remain unable to read themselves. Sufis say, the most dangerous ignorance is not lack of knowledge, it is lack of awareness. An unlettered heart is one that has never tasted humility, who do not know the book. To know the book is not to memorize its letters, but to allow its light to reorganize your inner world. You may recite revelation, yet still live in reaction, ego, fear, and superiority. The book is not truly known until it breaks you gently and rebuilds you silently. Accept wishful thinking. This is one of the most piercing phrases. They do not engage with revelation. They project onto it. Wishful thinking means, I want God to agree with me. I want truth to fit my comfort. I want religion without surrender. Sufis warn us here. The ego loves scripture, as long as scripture never questions the ego, and they do nothing but speculate. Speculation is religion without presence, opinion without purification, argument without transformation. The Sufi path trembles here because this verse whispers, do not replace certainty with cleverness. Speculation feels powerful, but it leaves the heart dry. Real knowledge softens you. Speculation hardens you. A pause for the listener. At this point, the verse gently turns toward us. It asks without accusation, are you engaging the Quran to be transformed or to be confirmed? Does it unsettle you or reassure you? The answer lives not in words, but in how you walk afterward. Verse 79. So woe to those who write the book with their own hands, then say, this is from Allah, to gain a small price by it. So woe to them for what their hands have written, and woe to them for what they earn. This verse is not loud, it is heavy, like thunder that does not rush. So woe to those. In the Quran, woe is not just punishment, it is spiritual ruin. It is the pain of distance from truth, the agony of a heart that traded eternity for applause. Sufis hear this and tremble, not for fear of hellfire, but for fear of inner darkness. Who write the book with their own hands. This is not only about physically altering scripture, this is also about rewriting meaning. When desire becomes your interpreter, you begin to edit divine wisdom internally. You erase what challenges you and highlight what serves you. The hands here symbolize egoic agency, acting without surrender. Then say, this is from Allah. This is the most dangerous lie, not spoken openly, but assumed silently. It is when the ego disguises itself as piety, when personal bias wears sacred language. Sufis say, the worst veil is not disbelief, it is false certainty. To speak in God's name without God's presence is spiritual arrogance dressed as devotion. To gain a small price by it Notice the word small. Every worldly gain, fame, power, validation, control, is small when placed next to truth. Yet the ego trades the infinite for the temporary again and again. This verse aches with irony. You sold eternity for something that cannot even stay. So woe to them for what their hands have written. Actions are not external only. Every distortion leaves an imprint. Every misuse of truth reshapes the heart. You cannot bend truth without bending yourself. The hands wrote it, but the soul must carry it. And woe to them for what they earn. Earnings here are not money alone. They are states of being, arrogance, spiritual pride, hardness of heart. What you earn shapes who you become. And sometimes the greatest loss is not losing God, but believing you already have him. Final whisper. These verses are not just only ancient criticism, they are also living warnings. They ask gently but firmly, are you letting the Qur'an change you? Or are you changing the Qur'an to fit you? Are you seeking God or seeking yourself through God? These verses remind us that the greatest veil is not ignorance of Scripture, but familiarity without reverence. When verses become familiar, the heart must become more careful, not less, because the ego loves what it can predict, but the soul awakens only in what it cannot control. The Quran does not want your performance. It wants your presence. It does not ask you to master meanings. It asks you to surrender to meaning, and surrender is not weakness. It is the moment the soul finally exhales. If these verses unsettled you, that is not a flaw in faith. That is faith becoming alive. If they made you quieter inside, that is not confusion. That is clarity approaching gently. Let these verses remain unfinished within you. Let them echo. Let them return when pride rises. Let them soften you when certainty hardens. Because the Quran does not come to inform the ego. It comes to dissolve it. And in that dissolution, something truer begins to breathe. Something that does not argue. Something that does not need to prove. Something that only knows how to bow. And in bowing, finally stand in light. If these words stirred something inside you, if you felt even a quiet discomfort, that is not fear, that is awakening. Sit with these verses, let them breathe inside you. And if you wish to journey deeper into the inner meanings of the Quran, where the heart listens before the tongue speaks, subscribe, reflect, and walk this path with us. Because the Quran does not end at recitation, it begins at transformation.